the Red Cross, the San Diego Humane Society, and other key partners that are making sure that those who are impacted here on the ground have the support they need. And that's what I want to say is that our city will be supporting these families who are impacted here. They're part of the military community that makes up our city, the proud partners of our community. And we will support them for as long as it takes to make sure that we get back to good here in Tierrasanta. Appreciate it, the early communication from Navy Region Southwest, Admiral Brad Rosen, who's an extraordinary partner for our city. I also want to note Councilmember Raul Campillo is monitoring the situation very, very closely. He'll be out here later today. But we're all going to band together and make sure that this situation is buttoned up. Again, extraordinary effort by our first responders. I can't emphasize that enough. The limitation in terms of the additional damage on the ground is a direct result of their hard work, of their expertise, of their professionalism. And I think every San Diegan expresses our appreciation to these heroes who got the job done this morning. It's still a tragedy, and again, our hearts are with those who are impacted. We'll continue to be here throughout this response effort and make sure, again, the families who are impacted, those who are not able to access their homes, are well supported until they're able to get back into their homes. That said, as I mentioned, this has been a collaborative effort. We are on military property. These are military families, military housing, and here on behalf of Navy Region Southwest is the commanding officer for Naval Base San Diego, Bob Healy. Captain Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. Sure. Good morning, Captain Bob Healy, and as the Mayor mentioned, I am the commanding officer of Naval Base San Diego with oversight of this area here in Murphy Canyon. This is one of the largest military housing units in the world. Certainly we have a lot of military families that are impacted. Again, want to send our condolences and thoughts and prayers to all of those impacted by this. Our foremost concern right now is to make sure that we have the safety of our families who reside in the neighborhood behind us. We are doing that down the street at Miller Elementary, and we really appreciate the local cooperative efforts to make sure that our military families are taken care of. So that'll be primary going forward. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. So thank you very much.
Any questions?
A point of
Preliminary casualty count
for fire. You stated that there have been no transports. Does that mean if casualties are limited to just those on the plane, or has it just not been a full sweep yet?
No, we've done a full sweep. We're doing what's called a fob. So we go in between and we're looking at everything down the airport that we have here. There's a possible debris field all the way back behind us, all the way into here. So we're going to make sure and we do a step-by-step process of going through the housing units that we have down here. No one was transported out of the housing units. That's where I say we were lucky in that fact that no one from those homes was injured that we've had so far. We had some possible minor injuries, but no one was transported from the scene from any of the housing units. All the fatalities right now look to be that they're from the plane. We're working with the FAA right now to find out how many actual people were registered on that plane. We'll have more information for that here shortly when we get those numbers. But everything that's a fatality right now appears to be from the plane itself.
Are you able to tell us if more than one fatality?
Yes, there are more than one fatality that we've found so far, but we're waiting to get the registered numbers that were on the plane itself.
Two things. It was a commercial? Was it what kind of plane?
It was a private plane. So a private plane, and it was registered out of the Midwest is where the flight originated from, is what we have. We're still getting the final information on it.
And how many people was it able to carry?
The plane itself, I believe, holds 8 to 10 people with the pilot included, but at this time we don't know how many people were actually registered on the plane.
Any communication from the pilot?
We don't have anything on the communication from the pilot.
Was the Montgomery Tower open at the time, overnight?
I believe so, but that's something that the FAA can answer for you. I don't know on that one. On the fire side, I don't know.
But we know of no communication last minute from the pilot of the plane.
I don't have any communication from FAA on that one, if they were coming through on that one. On the fire side, we arrived on scene and found the plane into the sides of the houses over here.
Are we going to be able to hear from somebody with the FAA?
Yeah, later on we'll have somebody that will come with the FAA. We wanted to come right now and give you the best information that we could at the start here, and then we'll get someone over here to give you more information.
Updated numbers on damaged homes?
At this time right now, that's what we're doing, the fob and walking through on it. I can tell you that there are multiple homes, upwards of 10 homes that are affected. Also, when it hit the street, as the jet fuel went down, it took out every single car that was on both sides of the street on fire. So if you saw the scene, I know some of you had some images from earlier, you could see that every single car was burning down both sides of the street. And so that's something that we're gonna have to look at too. That's why you have the wisps of smoke, because we have one car fire that just will not go out no matter what we put on it right now.
Any homes destroyed?
There is multiple homes that are destroyed, yes. So
I had a question because I was down there at the scene and you saw the one on the corner with a collapsed roof. Is that the most significant?
that's the most significant impacted house, is the one on the far east side of that street. That's the most impacted. We are doing that walkthrough right now for looking at multiple items. One, damage to the homes. We're also looking for parts of that plane because it'll be part of the investigation as we go through, right? And then we're also looking for victims.
You say no one was transported from the homes.
Yeah.
Miraculously.
Yes.
Is it possible some of those, and I know this is very early,
Yeah.
were vacant?
It could be that homes were vacant, but at the same time too, our fires crews did a phenomenal job of doing primary and secondary searches. The way that works for us is we have one crew search the entire home, a secondary crew comes in after them, searches it again. Now that we've had daylight, we're also flying our UAS, which is our drone. So our drone is getting flown overhead too to make sure that there's no damage on top of these homes or anyone there either.
Have any of the residents been able to tell you how in the world they survived in terms of your people?
I believe that some of our people ran into residents when they were coming out. I don't have any of the updates on that.
Was it headed to Montgomery Field?
It looked like it was heading in Montgomery Field. Yes, if you look, you just saw the plane come overhead, was heading in that same direction.
And do planes usually come in that late? Is that normal?
I don't know on that one.
Okay.
On that, I'm unsure on that.
When you say Midwest,
Yeah.
that's about all you have?
That's what we
in terms
have
of
right now. We'll have
specifics?
more information from the FAA on that once we get it. And for us too, it's very important for us to find out how many people were on that plane.
NTSB, have they talked to you and we're on our way from somewhere?
Yes, NTSB is en route also to do the investigation.
Do you know where they're from?
No, I don't.
And when you know when they'll arrive?
Hopefully soon. I do not have an arrival time. As soon as we get that to you, we'll get it passed across from our PIO.
Was it all military housing that was affected?
Yeah, so everything behind us here is all military housing. To the south end of Arrow Road that you see is all military housing around it. We're standing on military housing ground here right now. So it was all military housing that was affected.
And when you talk about the debris field, like how can you kind of describe like how big of a debris field are we talking?
So we're talking about debris field all the way back to the power lines that you see behind you. So that's where we're investigating from there, trying to keep that area back.
You say power lines.
Yeah.
Possibly, I know you don't want to speculate without the FAA or NTSB, but there's a debris field from power lines that are nearby.
Yeah.
Can you be more specific?
So as you can see behind, there's a clipped power line behind us back there. We're trying to figure out if that was involved from the plane. That's something that they'll be investigating also. I don't have the exact numbers as to if it did hit it or not.
The nature of the debris below the power line would indicate?
That's what we're looking at right
Do you
now.
know
That's where we're
what kind of
sending.
debris are we
No, that's
talking?
why we're sending our second FOB crew to see if it does affect it or not. Our first main concern was the houses behind us to ensure that those were there. So our first crews went through and searched that. We're now moving our crews over to that debris field behind there with the FAA to work on it.
With a power line clip, do we know about outages right now?
So right now, luckily, we have no outages that have been hit. SDG&E has done a great job giving us updates and ensuring that everything is running well. As the day goes on and more people wake up and go through the rest of it, we'll ensure that we give you updates on that if there is any power affected.
I know San Diego Humane Society is here. We've seen a number of animals carted out of the neighborhood. Can you tell us anything about those animals?
I don't have number of animals. I can get that to you, absolutely.
Do you know if they were hurt or if they're...
I don't have that either. My main focus was trying to ensure that we had all the people out of there first, but I can get you all those numbers here shortly.
Do you know whether EMTs were treating people there? We were over in a self-evacuation center, and there were people with burned feet, for example, just trying to get out of their homes.
Yeah.
Did you have people on the scene actually treating people?
Yes, we had people on the scene treating people. Nobody was actually transported. The people that were over at your scene were brought back to the scene, treated. They were not transported to the hospital. They decided to sign out. Any other questions?
I think maybe for Captain Healy, what sort of services are available for the folks that are impacted back there?
Yeah, certainly we've had a community-wide effort to really bring a lot of services we need. I know the USO, the emergency services for the city is, and I've also had multiple organizations reach out to us to connect and find ways they can connect with our families. So we're using Miller ground right now, and certainly there's a lot of things that we're going to have to look at moving forward for families to rebuild, their lives and their homes and things like that.
Anything that somebody wants to do to help, I mean, who can they coordinate with?
You can coordinate with the base, Naval Base San Diego Public Affairs, and we'll take it from there.
How are the evacuated families coping right now?
They're coping well. Certainly they're shocked, and to wake up to this, so certainly we're going to be by their side to make sure that they're properly cared for, as anyone would expect, and really appreciate the community-wide effort to support us in that endeavor.
I don't know if you can talk to this, but we've talked to some of the military folks who live in the neighborhood. their military training kind of really helped out in a situation like this?
Yeah. Well, like the gentleman standing behind me, I mean, we're trained to act, in crisis mode. So many of the sailors, Marines, and others that you saw really, stepped in and took action and got the families out. And certainly the first responders jumped on the scene very quickly to support us. So it's a team effort.
Captain, is the date long? Is it possible there could be another evacuation center beyond Miller? Or is that the official one right now? And we think
at this point, that's going to be the only one at this point. Yes, sir.
I have one quick question just to clarify on the fatalities, and I know that's just, you're looking at the plane, but is it accurate to say you believe that multiple people?
It's accurate that multiple people believe we have multiple fatalities. From what we've found so far on scene, we do believe we have multiple fatalities, but we're going to have to go through and take our time and ensure that exactly what we have.
Okay, guys, thank you for being out here and helping us get information out. We'll try to have another briefing before 11 o'clock, so stand by for that. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen.
Want to wrap up what we now want to, this press conference just ended, so of course we want to kind of wrap up what we just heard. Multiple fatalities. That's the big piece of information we just learned from law enforcement there. They are going car to car, home to home, making sure that no one else is inside those homes nearby. Still a dangerous scene. Smoke from a stubborn car still there, but the bulk of the fire is out.
They believe the fatalities were limited to just the crash site, the people that were on board that airplane. We know that it was registered out of the Midwest, according to the assistant fire chief. The plane holds 8 to 10 people, but they do not know how many were on it. They are investigating that as we speak right now. The good news is no one was taken to the hospital out of that neighborhood after that crash happened, which is great to hear, because the debris field and all of the devastation and destruction that we have seen from this plane crash has been horrific to see. You saw the mayor there, the chief of police there, their heartfelt condolences going out to everyone that's impacted. We had a military member there also saying they're going to stand by with these military members, take care of them. Also, Chief Scott Wall saying 100 people have been displaced because of this. They've all been evacuated to Miller Elementary School. He said, quote, "It's horrific to see."
Right. We do have Chris Groh there on the scene as well, joining us.
Hey everyone, right now you are listening to our content partner in San Diego. I'm Jane Monreal here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Just before 11 o'clock right now, we turn it back over to our San Diego crew covering a small plane crash into a neighborhood. Let's go back to it.
And it's really hard to put everything into a timeline because of just how chaotic everything is. So let's just start with what we are seeing right here from our vantage point, where this presser just wrapped up. I want to bring in some key points here. We just went over what happened with the press conference, but let's show you what's happening right now. You see some of these fire trucks leaving. I want to point something out here pretty key. You see these blue bins right here. You see the firefighters that are hovering over them right now. We've seen a number of firefighters that have gone ahead and put in their gear, whether it's what they're wearing, the hoses they used to try to make sure that hazmat, so that's all going to be considered contaminated, that they're going to make sure that all gets collected. And then there appears to be at least an FAA investigator just beyond the scene here that might have just walked by our camera. So we do know that at least an FAA investigator is here on scene. And then, of course, some key takeaways, as Ned and Eric already pointed out, but I think should be echoed again. They do believe that any casualties, which they have not given us that number yet, that any casualties are limited to those were on the plane. So pilot and potentially any passengers, were waiting for them to get notified by the FAA about what that number could be. They do not believe that anybody survived that plane crash. So let's show you that video that we've been talking about, because this is, again, just puts into context how chaotic this has all been. This is Ring doorbell camera. So the way that this works, right, is that any type of motion or anything big that happens, that Ring doorbell turns on, starts recording. So when that plane crashed, when it flew by here, when those explosions happened, that's when that Ring doorbell started rolling. That's where our video begins. And then you see that resident for that Ring doorbell camera, that owner there, come outside, grab a small garden hose, just trying to do he could to try to mitigate any type of burns. In fact, you already heard that most of the fire has been put out, but there's that one stubborn car fire that will not go out, in large part because, again, what we're talking about as an accelerant here, jet fuel, that is going to burn. That is the main hazard that is here. We've spoken with a number of residents that have been evacuated. Most of them have already gone to either friends, family members, and or Miller Elementary, which is closed for the day to accommodate them. Here's what one of them told us.
So I actually had my bedroom window open and I heard the explosion, but I didn't know what it was. I thought it was something down by Walmart. And then we just saw orange, but I didn't hear any sirens. And we didn't hear sirens for a very long time. And that's what concerned us. And we ran outside and saw just sparks flying up and tried to make sure everybody was okay. It was very, very scary.
So again, guys, I mentioned those FAA investigators. We at least see one of them with that marked jacket right there. That's the gentleman in the blue that's walking back towards the wall that's just outside of this property, climbing to get a vantage point. You can see the debris there, likely from the plane, and then, of course, that electrical pole. So what they're doing, conceivably, is trying to get an idea about that descent, look at it with their own eyes. This is all going to be part of their investigation as to why this crash happened. So there's all of these different parts and moving pieces. You have the actual response to the crash itself, the fires that sparked because of this, the residents who were evacuated who needed a place to go, finding out if anyone was hurt, and then now, by the way, this is a full-on crash investigation scene in which federal investigators are going to be here swarming, combing through, making sure that they find every single piece of evidence that they may be able to use in order to piece together what is going on. I understand, Eric, Netta, we're going to send things back to you now.
Yeah, that plane likely hitting that utility pole before it made its way into that neighborhood, impacting a dozen homes, several cars just completely destroyed.
And some of the cars, we're seeing pictures coming in blocks away from that initial crash site, that home that we showed you on Sample Street. So the debris from the plane likely went all throughout the neighborhood, impacting multiple blocks. We heard at least 3 or 4 blocks, but also they mentioned about 100 families, 100 people now likely with friends and family, trying to, obviously get their bearings, figure out what they're going to do next. Schools are canceled for today. Hancock Elementary and Miller Elementary. That would be an evacuation center where they are also helping with childcare. Want to point that out to so many of the families.
So many people displaced, impacted by this. We want to check in with CBS 8's David Govertson. Doesn't live too far from the scene here, joining us live as part of our team coverage here. What are you seeing where you're at here, David?
Hi, yeah, I live in Tierrasanta, and I'm sure you've been reporting all morning. We just got on scene here, but this is military housing with families and little kids, and they tell me they just woke up at 4 in the morning from sleep and just heard popping and crashing noises. I am on the other side of Sample Street from where that press conference took place, and the crash debris is pretty much on Sample Street only, but what we're looking at are vehicles that caught fire because of fuel flowing down the gutter from the crash scene and to the west, and all of these vehicles caught on fire. You can see the gutter, there's still water flowing, but neighbors tell me there was gas flowing down the gutter here, and we're going to walk a little bit. You can see the charred gas path here. Literally, flames were coming down the gutter as the gas flowed, and now we're almost a half a block away now from Sample Street, on the west side of Sample Street. And here, look, this car here caught fire almost a block away from the crash scene, because of the gas on fire coming down into this vehicle. And then, of course, this vehicle has gas in it, and then it becomes engulfed in flames. So that's why we're seeing damage even down the street here. There's like a melted trash can, and the flames continue to go down the street. So that's why we're seeing damage a block and a half away from the crash scene. But predominantly the wreckage is on Sample Street. And again, this is all military housing. And as we're standing here, we're right in the flight path of Montgomery Field. There's still planes going overhead right over Sample Street. This is directly into the flight path, landing path of Montgomery Field.
David, you just answered a lot of questions for us because we saw where that plane came to a screeching halt in the middle of Sample Street, but we saw these cars off in the distance that were completely destroyed. It's because of the gutter system was bringing that jet fuel down and it was on fire, lighting up every single car even after the plane crash scene and then going around the corner and causing more damage and destruction.
I mean, think about that. Fire basically flowing down into the gutter system. Down these streets. David's about a block and away from Sample and Salmon Street. That car, Yorktown and Tossig Street. So through this neighborhood, that's a block and a half over from the crash site itself to see that trash can melted there. Incredible. I mean, think about flames, a river of flames basically going underground and coming out of the gutters.